Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, great leaders, great scholars, wow, lovers of wisdom and creators of knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us once again tonight. My name is Mazwe Majola. I'm from the Worldwide Institute of Leadership and Development. We develop leaders, we empower leaders, we identify leaders, we coach, we produce world-class leaders because we believe that leadership is everything and everything is leadership. If we can fix leadership, our families, our communities, societies, our businesses, our nations, our countries, our governments, everything, they'll be effective and efficient. Just leadership. So that's why we spend so much time investing in leadership, whether it's conferences, workshops, books that we're writing, these webinars that we have every Wednesdays, just to deal with this issue or this phenomenon that is leadership. So we meet every Wednesdays here as leaders. This is a platform which was created in August 2020, and we have been meeting weekly since then. We've been addressed by many great leaders from the country and global and internationally. One day I'll just maybe make a presentation just to remind the colleagues to say, you remember all these leaders that have addressed us, scholars from different universities and great leaders from different industries, and our platform or our sessions are attended by men and women of high caliber from all walks of lives, whether the academics from different universities or executives from public sectors, from private sector, politicians, members of the media, religious leaders, community leaders, managers, leaders, professionals from all walks of life. As long as you're a leader, you belong here. So we learn a lot. We are peers. It's leaders talking to other leaders. That's the beauty of this platform, because the participants are leaders in their own rights. I mean, I always say that people who attend these sessions, I respect them a lot, I admire them a lot, and actually I'm so humbled that really you've got such a caliber of people who attend here. And we learn a lot every Wednesday, because we believe that whenever we hear, we come here to learn, to unlearn, to relearn, and to co-learn. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight we are discussing a very important topic that will be that's addressed by my brother. I'm going to introduce or shortly, but it's a very important topic: possibility to reality, the power of coaching in the age of AI. So that will be discussing tonight, and I'm so looking forward to it. Welcome to our regulars, to our members. We learn a lot from you, colleagues, as I've said, but a special welcome to those colleagues who are joining us for the first time. If it's your first time being with us, you are in a right place. The question is that, where have you been? But it's not too late, because from today, and then you can then join us every Wednesdays. I mean, if I can tell you, I see my sister there, Auntie Soto. I'm not talking to you, Auntie So, but welcome, my sister. Thank you so much. And all those who are joining us for the first time, there's no way that you'll never come back. I guarantee you, there's no way that you join this community As long as you're a leader, there's no way that we would like to come back, because it's a relaxed mode, but very robust discussion. Because as I'm saying that when all these great leaders are assembled together in one place, you can imagine what will emerge from there. But thank you so much for joining us. Please do participate. Don't be diffident and don't hold back and don't think it's your first time. We just want to listen. Yes, listen, but also would like to listen, or rather would like to hear from you. So feel at home. This is a safe space. It's a community of leaders where all leaders converge to learn from each other. I'm so happy that finally I got my brother Vikash Manik. Most of you who are here, you know Vikash, and but I'm so glad that really he has availed himself in his busy schedule. He has been traveling in the last few days, but I'm so humbled that really he's with us tonight. Actually, I'm so glad that last week he was with us, although we had a challenge with our speaker last week, but we had a wonderful open line. Now, I can call it Vik. We had an open line session session last week.
Fantastic.
As I always say, it proves the caliber of leaders that are here, that there's no way that we can cancel a session just because there is an emergency from the speaker. So, Vik, as I'm saying that most of you know him, for whatever reason, he gave me a very brief and shortest, shortest bio, and then obviously talks to the humility of the man, because it's got so many credentials, but he just forwarded me just to say this to you. Vik Manik is an experienced leadership advisor with a background in clinical psychology and expertise in redesigning future-fit, human-centric organizations. Beyond his advisory practice, he is a passionate advocate for Africa to lead and benefit from the AI revolution through his work at the African Institute for Artificial Intelligence. His perspective and experience intersect technology, leadership, and community change. That is Vik or Vikash Manik, ladies and gentlemen. He will address us, and only once he has addressed us, and then we can start asking questions and we can start engaging with each other. As always, we are pleading with those colleagues who will be asking questions. Please, will you just show us your video so that we can see the face and the mouth and everything that is speaking. So just to prepare you that whenever you are talking, please would like to see you. Vik, over to you, my brother. Thank you so much once again for availing yourself. Let's hear from you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Professor Majola. An incredible privilege to be here with you in the wild community. Your gracious introductions, I think, sets the scene perfectly. It's the call for changing the future sits with us. And the definition of leading is by being and by doing. And I'm hoping in today's engagement, we can explore that. It's a start of a conversation. It's the start of, I think, looking at how it is we take a different lens to the opportunities we see in the world. I think the world is filled with challenges and wicked problems, and at the same time, amazing opportunities for dramatic change. With that, and with the support from the team, I'm going to ask for a little bit of indulgence, perhaps to set the context and maybe share a few slides. Professor Majola, if you're comfortable with that and with the gracious support of the community. And then I'm going to create some space for us to just talk through the concepts that were shared. And I do apologize up front. There may be some elements I'm a bit naughty with. And I'm hoping that the community will challenge and test the concepts and thinking, because we'll grow from the conflict and the robust engagement. So with that, Samajola, I'm going to ask you to just keep me honest as I share my screen. And also if there's any conversational matters that come through from the community that I'm able to pause and run through. But I'm going to share my screen at this moment, and then we're going to get into it. An absolute privilege to be here with you and looking to learn, unlearn, relearn, and co-learn as per the invitation of this wonderful platform. So we're going to be talking about the possibility to reality and the power of coaching in the age of AI. Oof, that's a lot in there. There's so much to digest and to work through. So I'm going to give a specific slant, and there may be some perspectives that I want you to hold very softly because they're to evoke thinking, to evoke reaction, to evoke taking at a different lens to life. And so I want you to just take that on as you work through the presentation. So I'm going to share something a little bit here, and I do hope that it plays, but I thought it could be useful. And moving, that sets the scene for perhaps just talking about how rapidly the world has shifted and changed. And that video, just as a side note, is dated. The incorporation of, I think, much more intelligent systems into Boston Dynamics that's now deployed that technology into both civilian as well as military usage in the US and globally is present. So it's no longer concept. And that was a proof of concept video just around the advancement. But it does create a stark contrast for what we see in science fiction and the reality that we experience today. Just keep that gently in the back of your mind around that rapid progress from a technology perspective and what that could mean for us as humanity, and particularly for the opportunities that we see in Africa. And then I want to take you back into something a bit more personal, something very close to home. If we look at the number one cause, for instance, of all-cause mortality globally, and if we take into account any issues of violence and obviously wars and broader contextual impacts, when you look at health and what is the core driver for mortality for an individual that's in a generally safe environment, you find that heart attacks are actually the core driver for it. And I'm going to ask the community to bear with me here, because we will arrive at the point, but I'm taking the scenic route to get to it. And when we look at it, it is the number one cause. And it's interesting is that we have a significant amount of intelligence and technology that allows us to be able to profile the drivers of risk and to understand the pattern and what creates the high levels of risk as well as the low levels of risk. And we're able to, in many instances, shift from one state to the next based on advanced medical care. Now, drill it back in, knowing that it's one of the top drivers of all-cause mortality is heart attacks, and we bring it down into a personal level. And I invite everyone to, at a personal level, just imagine you are one of 100 patients at a hospital, and we know we have many hospitals across the country where this is a very real scenario. So, I take it with absolute sensitivity. And for anyone that has been in such a situation or has family members, please take it within the scenario and the exploration. It's for us to just understand it at a cognitive level, but to hold the emotional impact that it will have on you as an individual. You're now informed that you have this severe risk that is going to affect your livelihood, your life, your family, and the vision that you have of yourself in the future is now fundamentally cut ajar. You're advised you need to take your medication, otherwise your life is literally at risk. We have a general sense, and I think for the community here, because obviously we don't have a poll up, but I would say that majority of people would say is at least 80 out of the 100 patients would be able to take their medication, right? And I think it's a fair assumption to make that if mortality is at stake, that you would have at least 80% of the people that would be taking it. Now, what's interesting and what's fascinating about this is that when you look at what does the data show us, and this is both data that's coming out of Western research medical journals, but also globally, is that typically 14% or 1 in 7 made the habitual change. The question is why? And there's a very complicated causative effect that we're seeing that's driving the shift in behaviors. But you would think that the motivator of mortality would be the ultimate motivator to get behavioral change. When we think of within organizational or community context, we have punitive measures that we believe are critical to driving behavior change. But when you think of mortality, it's the ultimate price that you'd pay if you make the wrong behavioral decision. Here we find only 14% adherence. And what the research was saying, and it's probably better grounded in an example. It's coming directly from the actual American Medical Journal of Sciences, and this is the original study, but then there's been subsequent studies that have occurred right up until 2022, but in different countries as well as across different geographies, is that there's such a thing as immunity to change. And when we consider what's driving that immunity to change, I think you'll start to reconcile that with that broadened picture of how technology is advancing so quickly and where we are as from a species and the choices we have. But what's sitting underneath that immunity change, if we take a healthy individual, and they were part of the stories that emerged in this research. Researchers interviewed them, they engaged with their family, and they asked them, so you're aware of this, you've had a consultation with your surgeon, and your surgeons advised you that if you do not take these set of 12 pills every day and adjust your diet, you have up to 80 to 90% likelihood that you won't live beyond the next 2 years. And yet only 14% adhered to that advice. And what they found was, what was the core drivers sitting underneath that immunity to change was, when they looked at the behaviors that they engaged on a day-to-day basis, they found that one is that their ecosystem did not change and enable the behaviors for them to exhibit. Two, there was a fundamental challenge to their identity. We had healthy individuals walking into the room saying is that they want to live their life to the fullest, and being confronted with a fundamental and radical challenge to their identity, that they're a healthy individual, countering that perspective of the medical opinion. And so now we sit with two conflicting views of their lives. And the research unpacked that from their identity perspective, they were still holding on to being a healthy, happy individual that would not be surrendering to the illness. And as such, their behaviors exhibited what they saw others do in their ecosystem that defined health. And so they found that for individuals that aren't in a healthcare controlled environment, if they're at home, their diet stayed similar to the people around them that didn't have the high risk of heart attacks, which meant the diet wasn't controlled. When it came to exposure to high-risk food groups, to taking their medications, they had no systems of enablement or support that kept them honest to the habits. And thirdly, they had no peer group that would be reinforcing and supporting them in the behavior shift. And then they contrasted this to controlled environments where they had a second control group that was at a healthcare facility, and particularly a stay home for the elderly, where they would have encouraged peer group support. They would have a nurse that would be checking up on them. Importantly, where the identity of themselves getting older was embraced, and that this was part of getting older, and that they could embrace the habits of doing so. Those two groups had two different risk profiles as a result of that. And why that's important to keep in mind, and why immunity change is so vital for us. And I'll take it out of the context of heart attacks, is that we all see fundamental changes in our environment where the world is fundamentally different. It is ajar to our assumptions and expectations. We tend to look at our life and we tend to think of a fairly stable line. If I had to imagine your life, you'd probably see peaks and troughs in it. But the extent to which we would see how different and how such a break is for the future is very difficult. We can't imagine that the people that existed in 1900s that worked with horses would imagine a world in which we would have co-laborers that may actually be robots. And so they have a linear view of the future that rolls through assumptions of the past. And so the view from and the learnings from the immunity change for us, and why it's so relevant, particularly in the age of automation, greater robotics, and artificial intelligence, is that progress is less to do with technology and more to do with how we embrace the change from where we are. And what is the mindsets, the skill sets, the habits, and the ecosystem we create that enable behavior shift and taking up those opportunities. And I think from that, there's a bit of a segue into what we're going to be talking about today, which is very much the power of coaching in the age of AI. And just to ground that example around the immunity to change, and just for the community to get a little bit more underneath. So there's a set of personal factors, peer-based factors, and ecosystem factors that drive change. And so instead of us looking at changes, typically we put a lot of pressure on the individual. In the Western society, the belief is that the individual is the core of action. And so we ask around questions around motivation, determination. Are you working hard enough? But when you analyze and look at behavior, it's much more from a scale of change. And when we talk about nudging choices and shifting choices, it's very much around how do we stack up all of those factors in the weight such that we drive change for ourselves at our community level, in our organizations, at a country level, and then as Africa, for us to get the future we want. And so I invite the community to consider, when we think about change, think of it in a much more nuanced way. What can you do at a personal level? And then, can I do it? And how do I close those barriers? How do I create an unfair advantage for me to be weighted to that choice? How do I set up my social ecosystem such that I'm supported to do it and I'm encouraged to do it, so that I can create those patterns and habits of success? And then the third piece, which is at a broader level, how do I mobilize with my community to invite this change, to expect this change, to be supportive of this change, to reward it and to recognize it? And do these three elements, the personal, the social, as well as the community fabric, how do they reinforce and support one another? And when we start talking about leading from where we are, every person is invited to the opportunity of being a leader of change, which means re-engineering the personal choices, the social choices, and the community choices. So that's what we're going to be talking about, and why this is relevant when we talk about the break, and very visible breaks in how organizations work. At a point, and I take you back to 2007, and it does feel very far off, but it's actually very close, is BlackBerry was seen as a really powerful and up and coming company, to the point that Microsoft was venturing into the telecoms industry, and they were interested in expanding in that industry vertical. They had eyed BlackBerry. I mean, we know the very famous acquisition that they had of Nokia, which was also a fail. But so the view from Steve Ballmer, who was then CEO, was that BlackBerry could do no wrong, and there was certainly no opportunity for disruption. And that same inflection point of overconfidence around the future is going to be equal to the past, is a choice and a perception we have with every moment in our lives, where we equal yesterday with today and with tomorrow. And the opportunity of change and defeating the immunity to change is the realization that tomorrow can be absolutely asymmetrical to today. It can be fundamentally disruptive. We could have a cataclysmic or epic event of social proportions that can fundamentally change our view of a linear future. And we saw that in COVID-19. And more of those forces at a global level are open to affect us within South Africa and within our community, within our lives. And so that ability to be resilient and to change and to be open to change is a vital element and ingredient for us to lead, for us to instill in others as we lead, to inspire in others as we lead, and to build at a community level and at a family level. Moving this a little bit forward and thinking about where to from those very powerful examples, we know that the world itself is going through fundamental change. I think everyone on this community is very familiar with the fourth industrial revolution, and we've moved beyond now the fourth industrial revolution to the fifth industrial revolution and the opportunities that come with it. We're also seeing that there's a confluence of multiple disruptive forces that are integrating and changing and redesigning life. And so with creating and sharing this perspective is to be aware of it, to look at how these forces can empower and not disempower us as leaders. When we take, and I'll zoom into just one particularly, which is a fundamental advantage for us within Africa and as African leaders, is we see a declining working age force, which is a core driver of GDP globally. And we see that in the Western countries, that there's an increasing gap where we have increasingly aging population within the workforce and the formal workforce, and insufficient growth with new entrants into the labor market force. But we see a significant uptick on birth rate and movement into the active workforce in the Middle East, Asia particularly, so the likes of the Korea, China, India. And then fundamentally, if we look beyond the next 10 to 15 years into the 20 to 30 years, we see that the youngest population globally, the largest contributor, 1 out of 3 workers, is going to be from Africa. And our average age in the next 20 to 30 years in Africa in the working force is going to be around about 18 to 19. So we have a fundamental reshaping of the global workforce and the contribution of Africa to shaping global workers, such that in any country, they will be seeing our citizens and our talent shaping their economies and their companies and their communities. And so the opportunity for us when we talk about leaders is how do we now leverage these disruptive forces to create the opportunities of change and empower us. And I'm not going to necessarily go through the various factors here. I will share this post, but each one has an intersection such that they are not acting on us but with us, and we are interacting with them based on the choices that we make at an individual level, at a family level, at a community level, then at a policy level, and then at an international level, and then broad at a global level. And so where we have access to forums of decision making where leaders sit, we have an opportunity to not be just merely influenced, but to shape the nature of this influence, whether they be population, education, values, energy transformation, or even how it is that technology impacts us, and for us to be able to exercise our voice as active citizens in that regard. Just to ground that a little bit more, I think we've seen the speed at which adoption is occurring globally and the speed at which change is disrupting how we operate and how we work. And so whether you're in a entrepreneurial context, within a corporate context, whether you're in a community, a work-based context, the adoption of artificial intelligence is now ubiquitous. Whether it's a 5-year-old using an Apple iPhone and Siri to help them with finding their favorite program on YouTube, to someone with that's standing in at a train station and is trying to leverage the phone's technology to be able to take a picture, apply a filter, and look their best for the next interview. We are already utilizing and employing artificial intelligence. The question is, how is it enabling us to be socially productive, and how do we keep the premium edge with us as humans, and how do we leverage it as a tool where it does not remove the premium advantage from our skill set and our capability, so that we still see prosperity in coexistence with technology going forward. I'm going to kind of skip some of these convergence slides, but they are available for the community to consume. But if we do take a look at and just stack up technology's impact on societies, we see concussive waves of impact. We're now currently sitting with at least 7 or 8 different forces that are impacting society and our economies as a whole, and which are forecast to create some of the largest contributions in real terms to GDP and growth. And the opportunity for us as Africans is to lead from the front and to not be consumers of the trend, but to be producers of the trend. And that is the big invitation and opportunity. How do we kind of step ahead of this? I think the community will be very familiar with the velocity of change, and that irrelevance happens when change outside is greater than change inside. And it's the opportunity of leading is first to self-lead, so that we can create the example to lead at our community level, in our families, and then in our organizations, and then nationally. But we want to be able to master Martek's law, so that we're always stepping ahead of it. And that's what the invitation is. And just as a segue side note, but if we are to keep up and to lead artificial intelligence, as well as many other disruptive trends, to be of benefit for Africa, for Africans, by Africans, then fundamentally education is a fundamental investment for us at a family level, at a values level, that we would need to unlock, that would have a fundamental knock-on impact positively for our future. Then it comes to the big question around, so what does it mean for me? We've seen that the world is changing disruptively. We know that inherently we're primed to have an inherent immunity to change based on our identity and the comforts of it. How do we now move forward? And so the mobilization at a mindset, a skill set, and a tool set is vital. And where does coaching fit into this unlocking process at an individual level, at a level within a community, at a family level, and within an organization? So I thought I'd share a little bit around its relevance, because I think there's probably a question mark around to what extent is this relevant for us right now, knowing that if technology is having such a tremendous impact globally, should we not be focusing on STEM-based skills? Should we not be doubly investing on coding and creating more and more technologists within at a national level, at an educational level? Should we be shifting the curriculum? And what we're finding is that by the time we shift national curriculums, and indeed there's definite value in doing so, the state at which technology would advance, we are moving from having to have pressure on developers keep up with language to now creating ubiquitous platforms where we are agnostic of whether the developer has the the language experience and expertise to code, to the platforms doing the work based on instructional and verbal input to be able to design. So very pragmatically, we are now seeing the emergence of 1 or 2 person businesses building app-based businesses from a global platform perspective, launching that on devices and commercializing that without having any technology expertise themselves. They are finding a need in the market. They are satisfying that need, and they're utilizing platforms. Now, from a factors of production perspective, this is disruptive and revolutionary at the same time. We now have capitalism manifesting in a fundamentally different manner than we've understood it, where the accumulation, a concentration of capital can fundamentally disrupt skill set, and skill set is no longer a factor of leverage where you can have a platform that can aggregate, can create the market making basis for what are the economic values of a skill set and then provide it back. And I mean, a very simple example is 10 or 15 years back, we know that within South Africa and Africa, there was many businesses that were built on providing transport and specific concierge services to corporate organizations and to high net worth individuals. With the advent of technology, and specifically that ability where we're no longer dependent upon the skill set, but the skill set is now provided by a platform and a marketplace. The skill of the driver, knowing the environment, knowing a city, being able to be customer centric is now being removed. And we now live in an age where you can go onto Uber, or you could go onto any of the other competing apps like Bolt, and the app technology matches you to a driver that's instantly available without you having to have a contract with a specific company. He's able to do that on demand. He's able to meet and sort out the transaction seamlessly, and to give you the security via the app of being able to get from point A to point B with a trusted vehicle and a trusted driver without you having to worry about who the driver is specifically or what their skill set is. And so what's the lesson for us in the broadened context of change and transformation that's occurring within our the broader world and then within our economy is how do we now arrive at the opportunity of change such that we still hold on to what would be the differentiating premium from a skill set perspective? How would we create value within these systems where technology is disrupting easily commodifiable skills? And one of the key high leverage skill sets for the future that's been mapped, and whether it's Harvard, whether it's MIT, whether it's World Economic Forum, any of the reputable institutions that have forecast capability that is beyond the next decade into the next 3, 4, 5 decades, they are centering on durable skills are the most critical for unlocking a prosperous future. It does not mean it substitutes technological skills, but technological skills in the absence of durable skills are insufficient to be future fit. And that means when we talk about leading ourselves, leading our children, leading our families, leading our communities, we need to be investing in creating the winning mindset, creating the winning skill set, and creating the winning tool set that allows them to unlock the possibilities of now and the future. And this is where I jump straight into the coaching conversation, and why coaching for me, I think, is a critical contributor for unlocking opportunity and turning possibility into reality. We've seen that whether it be at an organizational level, whether it be at an individual level, whether it be at a national level, we all have choice and opportunity of choice. But we can comfortably say that yesterday looks very similar to today, and today looks more than likely very similar to tomorrow. And what sits underneath that is mindset and comfort and behavioral habit. If we're going to unlock change in results, we're going to have to unlock and dig below the behavior to understand what exactly is shaping our frame of understanding of the world. How do we sense make? How do we remap? How we create understanding and meaning about our identity and what the future holds? And going back into that immunity to change, having a very crystal clear around how we identify as African leaders. How do we identify as citizens in Africa? How do we identify, and what does that future mean for us is fundamentally important, because we need to be making decisions not from who we were yesterday or who we compromise to be today, but from who we hope to be and who we aspire to be in tomorrow, and to be working from tomorrow backwards to the opportunities and the choices we have today. And that's how we're going to create that quantum of change and close that delta. So I know that this community is a champion of growth mindset, and there are many different perspectives to growth mindset. And I think there's a graduation and advancement on the work. But I thought, let me introduce at least the initial piece that framed growth mindset, and then allow that concept to just hold, that when we start looking at changing behavior, we are seeing how do we now make assumptions about the world and ourselves and our identity that allows us to be either open to making behavioral change or closes us off to making behavioral change. And that inward and outward orientation is a critical enabler. And the more opportunity we are to be aware of what's occurring outside and to be open to feedback loops from out externally, the more we are able to view our behavior in context based on the outcomes and the results. And so there's critical markers that coaching leverages off with the individual, and what that process of coaching does, which is help unlock a much more outward orientated focus to the world of change and possibility, then merely only focusing around inward and also yesterday or the problems of the past, but looks at specifically unlocking about the opportunities and the choices of now to create a different tomorrow. And so the growth mindset is a vital foundation when we look at the coaching process, and coaching in the broadened sense of coaching at both the individual as well as at a team or a community or a family level. And so just maybe to kind of delve a little bit, and I'll probably pause a little bit here so I can get into the core of the conversation, but just to differentiate coaching from all the other types of therapeutics that exist. Where we locate coaching based on how we solve problems and our past and future orientation is coaching fits very much on the axis of where we're not orientated towards providing advice or giving answers, but helping discover the opportunities and creating the opportunity for the individual or the team or the audience or the segment that we're coaching to find the answers within their space and to be available to that and to unlock that. And then the second element where coaching plays incredibly strongly is a focus on the future and working from the future to the choices we have now, as opposed to exclusively focusing on the past and then addressing that. Now, coaching again is a complementary, so it is not in substitution of therapy or consulting or mentoring or training. They all have their space within creating behavioral change. But why there's a heavy reliance on the relevance of coaching within the business environment, and particularly at the community and the individual level, is around unlocking that mindset and openness to change and to being a responsible leader for creating change where you stand and where you're at, because it helps positively reinforce any other forms of therapeutics or improvement actions that could occur from mentoring or training or therapy, because it focuses on the individual accountability and responsibility for their actions right now to determine their future. And so just to ground it a little bit better, coaching definitely focuses on that belief and mindset and values, but very much around the possibilities of now and today. Why that's so vital is when we look at core disruptive forces that exist globally, and we look at the the impacts that has at a cultural level, political level, economic level, a social level, what we find is that the individual, the family is feeling at stress, they're feeling under pressure, real, both at an emotional, at a wallet level, at a social level. There's a tug of what could be versus what we're experiencing. And that gap, that delta is creating significant amount of anxiety. And I think at a global level, from the World Health Organization, they're seeing increased levels of mental wellness challenges globally amongst both the labor force as well as in our general communities. And so where coaching can play a critical role and an enabler, it's allowing us to be present to the opportunities of now and the possibilities and the choices of now, so that we can take those opportunities to create the future we need, to create the future we want, and to not to surrender to that which is easy or that which is in the past or that which we regret or that is perhaps the baggage that we're holding on to, but to embrace opportunities that exist now. And so that's where the coaching positions itself, just to help unpack and to clarify that. I'm probably not going to go through the benefit case of coaching from a global perspective or talk about organizations that have implemented coaching at scale. I'm probably going to pause there and maybe open up to a conversation around why coaching is important for us within the sphere of Africa and unlocking the opportunities that we have as leaders within Africa. And on that note, I'm going to open it up to the community and Professor Majola to help us mediate the broadened conversation.
Wow, great stuff, my brother Vik. Thank you so much. And I want to open it up to the participants straight away. I see a question there from Professor Beatrice. Prof, I wonder if would you like to express yourself there, or do you want us to read your question? Maybe if you express, you might put it differently or better. Are you okay with that, Prof? Excellent. As I see here opening up. Go ahead, my professor. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Majola, for this beautiful opportunity and space that you're creating for us. It's my second time, let me say that, and it's been wonderful. You're right that you can't be here one time and not want to come back again. So I want to validate, I just thought I should validate that. And thank you, Vik. I hope you don't mind if I call you Vik or Mr. Manik, for that profound, like somebody said in the profound, and providing the right context for us to understand where you are coming from. I like the behavioral aspect and the denial space that we put ourselves sometimes, especially in the space of AI in higher education sector. So my question is, how can we now influence those of us that recognize that AI, like calculators, is here to stay? When I was learning maths, I used four-figure table, and calculator was like, you're cheating. But today is different. How can we now call attention of our colleagues in the higher education sector that they still stuck in this idea of AI is cheating, AI robs students of intellectual strength and all of those capabilities? How do we influence them out of that fixed mindset to embrace AI in all of our offerings and in all of our practices? That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wonderful, wonderful question. And I think a fundamental challenge whenever we sit between the opportunities of two realities. We sit at an edge. It's an uncomfortable edge where some people can see another reality and others can only see how yesterday was. And we fear what tomorrow can bring. And I think my view of it is it's about creating mirrors. It's very difficult to change if you don't have mirrors in an institution. And when I talk about mirrors as a metaphor, it's around first the self-reflection and then being able to see others in the mirror and having that open feedback to yourself, because it's very difficult to take the feedback from others if you're not open to your own self-reflection and feedback, and to be aware of, are we getting the right outcomes and results? And what we do know is that, yes, we have fantastic educational institutions, but are they creating the shift from consumer to producer? Are they creating the relocation of where capital is being created within Africa, where we are building industry in the future? And if we know that we still have more to do, more of a journey to walk, then that opens up that opportunity for us to explore what else should we be doing differently. And if we can acknowledge and hold that without saying we need to surrender all of yesterday or throw out all of yesterday, we can have an and conversation around what else must we do in support of what we're doing to create the change we want. And so that's the exploration I would recommend, and from my viewpoint, but I would like to open the community to their perspectives as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. there. Thanks, Vik. Vik, it seems like at some stage humans will compete with machines or robots. And we'll come to a stage where obviously the robots will outsmart us, or we will have to find capabilities that we can use that maybe the machines won't or will feel or they'll find wanting. For instance, I don't know if you've used, as you were presenting, I've got this view that obviously maybe, or I don't know if I should use the word maybe we cannot compete with the robots when it comes to efficiency, effectiveness, diligence, working hard, sweating, because obviously they don't have feelings. They just work. It's a matter of just pressing the button until you press the stop. They can just work all the time. But maybe, and I was just trying to think that how can we then outsmart the robot when it comes to coaching or even leading? And then I'm thinking about the values or the skills of empathy, compassion, caring, because machines probably won't be having feelings that we have as humans. We can empathize, we'll have that compassion, that respect, we'll understand where the person coming from, even in the context of coaching and other stuff. What is your view when it comes to that? Because I'm grappling with this, that really, in one way or another, businesses will prefer robots or machines than humans because of that. They'll like to, in terms of productivity, they'll gain more than us, but we still have advantage or those capabilities from our side, that we still have feelings, we still have emotions that we can give to other human beings. Your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Professor Joe. I think that's top of mind for, I think, everyone in the workforce right now. And most definitely, I share your sentiment, is that we have seen technology trends where commoditization of skill sets and the premium that a skill set can have gets eroded the more the technology is able to automate. And now we're into self-learning systems where they're able to smartly take through the learned experience and knowledge. And I mean, we would think that no way, if we went back a decade, that we could think that a doctor's knowledge would be substitutable or would be leveraged by a technology. But we're now sitting at spaces where basic diagnoses can be conducted by machines and are being done so in different clinical environments and are being trialed. And we have, I think, already use cases in the US where they are already profiling based on pre-screening as well as based on voice, as well as on other sensing technology, being able to do a better job than a clinician that's had 20 years of experience, but through training with those professionals. So here, the community is now training up the intelligence within a platform and a system. It's commoditizing because it's in many ways, it's taking that demand and automating it, making it a lot more democratic, but at the same time creating pressure on the skill bearer, where they no longer have a premium because their skill set premium is now being sitting in this technology. So there's that downward pressure, and then we do know that demand does come in, where there's increased demand because there's now increased access, but the benefits don't necessarily always accrue to the skill bearer. And so that you see those premiums decrease from an economic perspective. And so how do we protect work? How do we protect human work such that human value of work still is retained, not just only the economic value? And I think it comes back to us being responsible as individuals, as creators of businesses, as policymakers, and at a global level, when we start talking about how do we responsibly and ethically deploy these are beyond technologies now, they're fundamental augmentations to life itself, that they are responsible in how it is that they are managed. And the encouraging piece is for us to reacquaint with our humanity and with our human values and our human connection, because what won't be substitutable, and I go back to the clinical example, you may have a machine that can best diagnose, but the human being would still want the therapeutic engagement of a human doctor with managing the process, the habit and the engagement and the feel of that. And that will not be substitutable. In areas where even AI is not yet sophisticated, but we see that intersection between quantum computing and the opportunities that sit there, large data sets and more aggregation of information, you'll start to see that the advancement of really sophisticated intelligence will start to affect high premium skill sets across different labor markets. But the human connection that's there is still going to be retained. So for instance, in the coaching environment, we already have technology that sitting with an individual can, before they even speak the first word, would be able to diagnose their frame of mind, their current emotional condition, or whether they're in a heightened state of anxiety or not. And then as they're speaking, would be able to go through and map at a clinical level the emotional states that they're actually going through, and then map that a narrative. Now, that's great. We have data, but do we have a human connection to the opportunity and the possibility? And does the human being on the other side want a human being to engage with, to unlock that? And I think that's always going to be relevant in the human context. The more we can embrace our humanness in the work that we do, the more we can shift from, I think, from passive inheritors or takers and consumers of technology to being co-creators of that technology and producers of that technology, then we would shift from being passengers, I think, what is a very globally Western-driven opportunity to now being a technology opportunity that can unlock opportunity in Africa for us for growth. And if we're able to do that at a policy level, at an educational level, at within companies, within the communities, and then within our family, then I think we're on that pathway. But it's going to take choice, hard choice, and follow through on behavior. Anything else that was top of mind that you wanted to explore from the community? I'd love to engage and debate. Please, let's go for it.
Can I?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Okay, fine.
Who's this now? Oh, it's Andy. So Andy, sorry, Masis, you can go, and then after that we'll take us Linda. Go ahead, Andy.
Thank you very much, Prof, and thank you for the opportunity. Mine, I think it's a comment, but a food for thought for everybody to say, as we were talking about opening a mindset that embraces change. When you look at our institutions, the speed of technological advancement, I'll make it a classical example. I once worked in an institution where the CFO was using a calculator and a book in the time of Microsoft Excel. You can imagine the balance sheet and the income statements that he was doing. And it was the biggest amount of work that he had to put in, because on Saturdays they had to come in to do what can be done on Microsoft Excel in 2 minutes, and he was doing it the whole weekend. So in terms of us adapting and moving with times, maybe looking at a system that can help institutions, because there's a balance between being consistent, that is your consistency at an organizational level, and the other aspect, embracing AI and our attitude there too. Because one of the challenges that I think we might come across is have developed a master plan, a whole master plan for 30-year development in any institution, and then you find that it's AI generated. You go through an implementation plan, it can never fly. So there are those issues that we might come up with, but then again, the biggest challenge is how quick are we to embrace, to balance the consistency that we want to see in our institutions, being consistent in our policy and our strategy and implementing the strategy, and on the other side, embracing AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Sis Andiswa. Vik, we're going to take that one, and then we'll take Sis Lindell after that.
Yeah, that's a great insight. This way, I talked about mirrors. I think it's very important for us to hold them up in whatever context we're in, so that we can be available to what are the opportunities and the choices of now, and not be comfortable with what we did yesterday. And I think that's an invitation for wherever we are operating. And if we can do that with a long-term perspective now, then the question of what is our national approach? Where are we around enabling the capability and the possibilities of becoming producers, not merely consumers? We had, as a country, I think, what was a fantastic approach to reindustrialization. Building industries up. And one of the large opportunities, if we look at the growth within Asia, is the production of AI chips, a very hard industry, but actually a fundamentally connected to growth of the AI industry, which is continuously exponential, has been chip manufacturing. America moved their chip manufacturing from onshore to offshore, and now Intel is spending, I think, close to about 10 or 15 billion US dollars to rebuild their manufacturing capability within the US, from both a security as well as from a technology advantage perspective. And we need to be asking these broadened questions at a policy level. What would put us to be leaders at a global level, and how do we build the skill set, the engineering capability, the technology capability, the industrial capability to start to benefit from it, where we're net beneficiaries of it as opposed to net consumers.
Great, wonderful. We go to Sis Lindela. Over to you, Sis.
So I wanted to say, this is a great presentation. It's amazing. I think I'll go back and watch it again. But my issue is, I agree that the human touch will always be important, because empathy is important. Interacting with the human being, I think will always be important. But now I'm thinking about your Generation Z, or even future generations, who are so attached to technology. In fact, I think their human skills, their social skills are not as developed as ours. I think most younger people are more comfortable interacting with technology rather than human being. I can almost say they tend to be a bit antisocial. So my question is, would they also be keen on human skills, or coaching for them? They would rather go for a robot to coach them. So what's your view on that? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great insight. And I know anecdotally, there's a lot of that perspectives around, the view of what these different generations are needing. And, what I kind of fall back on and is very much my viewpoint and perspective is that, we as family leaders, as community leaders, as educators in both the formal and informal context, we create the fishbowl within which the fish exists. We create the medium within which they manifest. And if we can create the space in which they can embrace their humanness and the technology, not at contrast or in opposition, but in integration, then we create the opportunity where they will grow into being leaders of community, leaders of companies, leaders of nations that know how to navigate the creating value for human beings and creating the economic and the social and the national value where they're not in conflict with one another, and at a therapeutic level and a level at which we can advance from a coaching perspective is it's to your point, and I think you called it out brilliantly, it's not so much or human being to human being or AI to human being. It's is to where we can leverage that opportunity, because the choice in habits and execution from a coaching and a behavioral change doesn't happen in the therapeutic setting. This is my challenge to my own fraternity from a psychology perspective, is that we have the human being in the flow of their life for about an hour of a therapy session, and then we deploy them back into the unforgiving world for them to make those brave choices. And so if they can have the support, the almost co-pilot, the assistance to help guide them as they make more informed, more conscious and aware choices, we always want the human being to be mediating that. We go back to our human roots, and community elders played that vital part of the connective tissue of cultural intelligence being communicated to the current generations, that they could build upon it for future generations. It was the asset that helped us to survive as humanity, but also to prosper. And it's something we don't want to disappear, but that can be augmented, that can be supplemented, that can be enhanced. And we're in a stage where we still with physical devices. We will blink, and in 5 years' time, we will be deviceless. It'll be ubiquitous. You may wear glasses. You may hear the sounds of it. You may hear of it conversing with you inaudibly, but in your mind. And you can leverage that piece, but still embrace your humanity and the human-to-human connection. And it's all around that choice. How do we now arrive at a space where we can create value for ourselves as well as value for the community and for the people we impact? And if we create that and opportunity, then we can find a space for both the human interaction and coaching as well as the artificial interaction and coaching to create the outcomes we want. Though a little bit of an indirect answer there, but I'm hoping that addresses some of those key points you're considering and brought to the fore. Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Wonderful, thank you. And I see a hand there from my brother, Andre Young, and then Andre will be followed by Brother Sam. Mr. Young, over to you, my brother.
Good evening, Prof. Mazwi. Good evening, Lendelwa. Good evening, Sam. Good evening, Wild. Good evening, my brother Vik Manik. Vik, I love what you just did, because you're asking us to consider what human operating system do we need so that this tsunami that is coming, that is here now, of tools, AI, robotics, all of these tools, we call them exponential tools, okay? What operating system should we be ready for? Because you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by people using AI, because they'll be more productive. And I think this tsunami that's coming, we've seen it in the history of industrial revolutions where electricity changed the game, energy changed the game. And for the first time, we are seeing intelligence changing the game. So the price of tomorrow, you have to start paying it now so that you're not left behind tomorrow. That price of tomorrow, you better become fit for tomorrow. I heard that come, and fit for me is future industry talent. You better be talent for the future. You can't be talent for yesterday or even today. So if you're not playing with AI, and my colleague Ajit uses that term, PLAI, play. You're going to be playing with AI tools in every aspect of your life, whether it be your health, whether it be your mind, whether it be your career, whether it be your wealth, your finances, your family, your coaching. I don't care. You better be playing with tools where you become fit, future fit. And the catalytic effect of this tsunami on us is you better change the operating system. He calls it a mindset. I use this word, the human operating system. You better align with the machine operating system because the two make you fit. But I think Sam will offer that, because if I listen to Sam's coaching conversations in the way he's been applying the assisted intelligence, I use this word, turn intelligence into your assistant. Don't use artificial intelligence. How do I get intelligence to assist me so that I can be fit for tomorrow? Is the thinking we're coming to. And for those of us that are playing with the tools, share it here and while. Maybe, Maswi, you must come up with once every week on where, what tool did you play with this week that we can all benefit from? Because I can't keep up with the tools. It's a tsunami. There's a new one every second. But this intelligence must allow us to take AI, African intelligence. I want to use A for African now, and export it to the world in a way we did the cradle of mankind and the way we exported African philosophy and culture for millennia. That's our opportunity. I'll leave it there and then I'll listen to Brasem.
So I'd love to invite Sam to take the stage, and then I'll share my reflections. But I wanted to say thank you so much for Honorable Andre sharing that powerful perspective.
Thank you. Super coach, just unmute there, my brother Sam.
Now, I'm asking Brother Andre, how did he read my mind so well? Thank you so much, Prof. and Vik. Wow. We in the coaching fraternity, we are being challenged, and thanks very much for bringing so much interesting input into it. I look at your title and I was curiously analyzing it. You are not saying that how do we cope with AI replacing coaches? You didn't formulate it that way. You're basically saying that the possibility of realities and the power of coaching in the age of AI, you are actually affirming that coaching is going to be even more powerful in the age of AI, which is basically a positive statement. And that I like that. But I wanted to support some of the statements you've made, but I think there are two critical elements of coaching in terms of contracting that we need to look at that actually address the AI or are addressed by AI. If you look at the coaching contract between a coach and a coachee, there are actually two contracts there. One is explicit and another one is implicit. And the explicit contract is what we call administrative contract, which normally you have to conclude that before you can even start coaching or before you can even do what we call developmental coaching contract, which is basically what people call coaching. Yeah, you can't coach until you and your client have agreed on what you are coaching about and what you expect to achieve. So certainly AI is going to replace the entire administrative part of coaching. There's no need for you to be really wasting your energy and effort looking at the administrative part of your coaching, which is fundamental because you can't move without that being done. So tick the box, AI is taking it over. But then within the development coaching itself, already AI is playing a role. Actually, I just come out of a situation where I was matched by another client somewhere in the world by algorithm. And I tested it. I wanted to check in my first session. I asked the coachee why him and I were matched. We forgot about AI. We just talked as human beings, and it was clearly spot on because he came with a strength analysis report that said that of the 10 elements, his development area is time management. Then I asked him, is this something that was given to you by AI or it was given to you by your own boss? He said, no, it was given to me by my boss, but AI confirmed it because when I got the results from the strength analysis assessment, it gave me 7 out of 10, and everything else was 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10. And then administratively with the Coach Hub, which is my partner, the contract was based on what we call use cases training needs, which is basically you coach for a particular gap, and in this case was time management. That is the first thing. So in terms of the development coaching, the diagnosis of the coaching area will be done by AI for you perfectly more than you can even do it manually, personally yourself. Secondly, it will help you set the goals based on the data that you have given it, and it will even come and challenge your data in terms of smart methodology. It will say, no, but you set the goals, but this goals in terms of the smart methodology is lacking something. That AI will do it for you. So it's in terms of refinement. And then, of course, post the session, it will recommend the interventions for you. If the client goes back and input the right stuff into the platform, it will say, based on this and your coaching goal, we think you need to go and do 1, 2, 3, and in the next session, report back to the coach. So it is already happening. In actual fact, in the Coach Hub, they don't call us coaches because we only coach on the platform. They call us digital coaches because we have undergone training to learn how to integrate the technology into our coaching. It doesn't replace us, it adds on top. Now, if you say, I'm not going to do this, then basically you won't even coach because the algorithm won't even be able to match you, or you won't be able to make your availability visible to your client for a client to book you. So it's definitely a great opportunity. And I looked at the 9 points you shared with us when you were questioning us, are we preparing and are we ready? I like point 5, point 6, and point 3, because that is really what will help us to transition into this opportunity that is presented by AI. In point 5, you're talking about curiosity and lifelong learning. Coaches can no longer sit and say, I'm qualified, I'm credentialed, because tomorrow you might just be asked. So that point 5 talks to what I believe is happening already. And then point 6 talks to technological literacy. I think it's more than just literacy, but the application. I mean, if you take, for instance, during coaching, you can already use virtual reality to actually give your client a better experience of your interaction with them, sitting in Johannesburg and a client sitting in London. And then you'll become a better coach than someone who does not use virtual reality. You know? So that's that. And then lastly, I think the other thing that is very, very important, of course, I touched on that, which is really coaching doesn't really happen when you are having a session. Coaching happens in between the sessions. And those things are not going to be done by you and the coachee because you are all gone. But the coachee is obligated to go to the platform and input it with what you have given it. And then the system will say, okay, if that is the case, before the next session, you need to do 1, 2, 3. So that I'm very excited about this because this is the stuff that's already happening if you want to coach globally using the platforms, because the distance is no longer the issue. Thank you so much. It's great stuff. I really love this, Prof. Majola. This is he needs to come back and workshop us even more, because it's not about replacing us, it's about enhancing us and make us better coach, and also to compete with other coaches who are already using this technology. Thank you so much. Really love it.
Thank you. Thanks, my brother. Thanks, Brother Sam. And I definitely agree with Sam there, Vik. We may invite you just to really to take this further, because it's so much. But if you don't mind, I saw Andre with a hand there before we go to Sivuis. Oh, are you covered? Okay, wonderful, my brother. So let's go to Vik, then we'll take Sivuis after Vik has responded to Andre and Sentima. Over to you, Vik.
Thank you, Professor Majola. I think first just an acknowledgement of what an amazing community. There's so much of learning and through listening, and the power of listening and being aware in the moment. And I think this is what this platform creates as an opportunity. And so the gift that I shared was my take on how I see the world and the opportunity, and I'm receiving so many gifts in listening to the wisdom that's in this community. And I must first nod off to my lifelong mentor and guide, Andre Young, who's graced me with this platform. I'm very honored to have him here. I'm certain the community will see a lot of shaping of how I see the world and opportunities is shaped by his influence. I have been in the fishbowl that he has helped create. They've helped expand my consciousness. So I appreciate that significantly. I think that mental operating system he talks about is truly a gift. The work that he's doing is really at that pinnacle of creating that opportunity of a prosperous future for us at this point at which is most valuable, which is with our youth, the leaders of tomorrow, and how it is we care and curate their future and the choices and opportunities they unlock. So thank you so much, Andre, for sharing that. And Sam, what an amazing insight around not what is tomorrow, but what is now. And how do we embrace what is already happening now so that we can discover our digital identities? And our digital identities do not sit separate to our identities, but must be embraced as who we are. And when we answer the question around what does it mean to be African leaders, it means to be African leaders in a digital world, and a world in which we can co-create and shape. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful sentiment.
Thank you. Thanks, my brother. Thank you very much. Let's take the last one. Will be my brother there, Sivuise. And then we'll give it back to
thanks Prof Majola. I think, and thanks to Vik for that wonderful insight. I think for me it's more of a comment than a question, which is something that I would say it's based on the practical experience on the work that I've been doing, I mean, in the Eastern Cape, whereby you start to use these tools for the benefit of the colleagues that you're working with. And you can imagine that it's a farm. So the majority of the people that I work with there are the people that are uneducated. So they don't have time, I mean, to write all these kinds of reports and everything. And what we've since done, because I mean, I'm sitting in Johannesburg and they're working in Eastern Cape, which is like 950 kilometers away. So even if they were to give me a report that makes me angry, by the time I get there, I will be even forgetting that, why did I come here? But what I picked up, for instance, we one of the tools, I mean, simple tools that we use is a WhatsApp with the Meta AI. And with that Meta AI, sometimes you would then put whatever the query is there. And when you put that query there, it would help us, I mean, one, to do all these things in a simplified language and also in a simplified communication. And the second thing is that when the reports come to me, they would come, I mean, as a voice note or a picture or a video, which then makes it more interactive and more visual and more voice-based learning, because when they send those videos or those voice notes, you can even feel the voice at which they're talking at, that this guy is either stressed or is happy. So you can easily read the emotions and all those things. And one other thing that I've realized is that when these tools are you using them, you're able to personalize their learning path, because you know who does what and how he does it and all of those things. And those things, I mean, they even help in terms of when you engage, and you can find a way, for the sense of gamifying whatever that they're talking about. Because some of the things, I mean, was just to use things like the Google Earth to say, this is the location that is giving me the challenge. And then in that way, you can be able then to sense and engage them and give them the insights based on the location that they are. And so those things, I find them to be more these tools, I mean, to be more supportive in terms of the language and the literacy, because you have people that do not have to stress about having to type or write the reports that are 10 pages when which is going to be stressful for them. So I really agree with you, Vik, that these are the things, the tools that are there to enable us and to simplify these things and to be able to be competitive, to what Brother Sam was saying earlier, to be able to be competitive with the other people that are out there in the world. And one thing that I was asking, that if you don't call that smart farming, what is it that then is a smart farming? Because you don't expect, I mean, to start with big things like the drones and all of that. You start simply with what is here, what you have, what is free, what is available out there, and you see what you can build from or on top of that. Thank you.
Powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And absolutely, that augmenting, I think, Andre putting it perfectly there. It's around that assistive intelligence, that augmented intelligence that we can deploy is available to us. And the invitation is, how does it become owned by us? How do we now start to create that and deploy it to benefit us? Is in the power of everyone's choice. And I think that's the opportunity we sit with them. I would like to see the future where we're talking about large language models that are built in Africa by Africans for Africans, where we are taking our indigenous languages that we are losing across different countries, different areas, where there's one elder that is the only lifeblood holding on to it, and we're able to take and digitize that so we can hold on to our cultural heritage, to stories that are shaping our identities and who we are and who we could be tomorrow, so we do not lose the anchor of where we have come from. I think those are all the possibilities. And to the economic, where we have a clear plan for the future, where we have a social plan for how we uplift and empower our youth as well as the people in our workforce to be fit for the future. I think that's what I would like us to invite everyone to be part of co-creating. Because if we wait for anyone else to lead that change, we will be waiting.
Wow. Well, I see my brother Andre there want to come back. Over to you, bro.
Yeah, must be. Both Sibuyile and Sam raised something. You know, the tools are being directed by the West, which means that they're directing it for a future, politically, economically, and culturally, where we're not setting the tone. We, Africans, and I'm working with my Indian colleagues in India, are starting to say, no, we want to direct the tools to generate a future and operate a future different. You notice I'm playing on direct, generate, and operate. I'm using an acronym that I use for God: generate, operate, direct. They can't come here and play God with us. We must play God with the tools. We, the Africans, must play God with the tools and direct the tools, generate them, and operate them for the prosperity of Africa and the East, which is why we are doing BRICS, which is why we are doing enough with Trump and the fellows in Europe. We can create a new future. Let's play God. Generate, operate, and direct. Please, I'm not trying to be religious here. Né? I'm trying to be practical. I don't want to dishonor God. You know, Ra, Ntu. No, please, with all respect to the divine. Né? But we must not, as Africans, become directed by the West's agenda with tools. We must drive the tools, Vik.
Actually,
we can export Africa by directing. We must become God with the tools.
I think there's something there, Andre, if I may come in, Prof. Yeah, Andre, thank you for bringing that. I think the one other point we must not forget, and just following on the God that you have just mentioned, the word God there, generate, operate, direct. The real people that influences the direction of these technologies are the content generators. So if we are conscious of the content that we feed into these platforms, we literally influence the direction they are taking. So we are not really helpless. So that's why we need to be very careful, and we need to understand the power of these platforms. If we give it wrong content, it is going to direct it in a way that is culturally not nice for us. And that's why coaching from an African perspective, informed by African wisdom, is our responsibility until the people who create this platform say, hey, we are in trouble. We really need these Africans to sit with us in the research and design rooms, because they are a big market, and look what they are generating, and we can no longer ignore them. So we are really powerful. It's almost like if you take the Google navigation. I mean, you know, and Vik will know very well that as you're driving on a highway, the same information that you are getting to direct you how far you must drive is the aggregation of all the cars on the highway, calculated, and give you the picture of, hey, you need to accelerate a little bit because you are going to be late. So if we become passive on this highway of technology, we will not get any product out on the other end that benefits us. And that's why even coaching in African languages is a must. If you're coaching in the rural areas and you're coaching in English, you are not coaching. So now the question is, have we developed the right type of terminology that will actually address this? I mean, Mazwe, Prof, we spoke about the Lokotla methodology the other time. That's an African concept. So much so that when you deliver it in English, it loses its meaning. So I just wanted to add to that, God, that you are right. The content will dictate, but we must keep on. I like what the brother has mentioned about the work that they are doing in the Eastern Cape. I mean, you know now the technology, really this is beautiful. I mean, all of us, we started coaching, and after every session, we must produce report. These days, you don't need reports. The report is available as soon as you finish. I mean, what a beauty. I don't need an assistant to interfere with my coach. That's why I say to Prof, this one, it needs a real workshop, because we are going to lose the opportunity that we shouldn't be losing. Thank you so much.
And to add to Sam, in-person workshop, not Zoom. We must come together at the State Theatre in Pretoria, and we must workshop it.
Oh, thanks, Andrew. Okay, no. We will. I commit. We will try to organize that in person. But it's very important. I agree with you, brothers and sisters. It's a very important thing. We'll try to arrange an in-person workshop sometimes, and then we'll obviously invite Vik and all of you just to be there, so that you can assist us. Because as we are talking, you know, especially for some of us, coming from older generations, I'm from Generation X, so obviously there might be even baby boomers here, for sure, Generation Y, and also we're still old-fashioned, and then we really need to, as Andy said, adapt and just adapting to these new ways of doing things. Otherwise, we'll be obsolete, and as time is going on. And I like what Andre and Sam is emphasizing to say, as we come to this workshop, let's try to find how we can find what Vik is saying, co-creating, but from an African perspective, so that we can influence whatever is happening. Others will be left behind, as Vik is saying, in terms even if for our languages and other stuff. Vik, you can respond there, my brother, and also and then you'll give us your parting shots, your closing remarks, and we'll close the session after you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Majola. I want to, thank everyone and the insights from the community. It's powerful, it's moving, it's relevant, and it's for us to consider now in the actions we take. For me, myself as well, I think it's drawing out so many important perspectives around how it is that I arrive differently and what actions I must take. And I think the invitation has been laid, Mr. Majola, to bring us together, to mobilize us, to envision a future where we can co-create what we know we must lead, what we must know we must create for future generations. And I think there's an amazing opportunity for the wild leadership community to create inspiration for the rest of South Africa around this, and how it is that we can influence broader than just within this powerful community, but to have exponential impacts in all our communities. So I'm very excited about contributing to that amongst this community, and to be led by the rest of the community when we mobilize for that workshop. I am going to exercise like the benefits of being on the platform, Professor Majola, but also lean into my coaching skill, which is to lean into silence, to honor the amazing insights of the rest of the team.
Thank you. Thanks, my brother. Thank you so much. On the chat room there, Hulu Fellows, very profound. And again, she repeated there, very good. And then we heard from Prof. Beatrice, my brother there, Dr. Sibonseni, just reminding us about our channel, that you can subscribe to our channel so that you can get some videos. And as I did to emphasize last week, that please, by that channel, we are not substituting this platform, because obviously we would like you to come, let us engage here, so that we will not becoming lazy and say, no, even if I didn't attend the session, I'll still find it from the channel. Please do subscribe. We'll appreciate that. And then Brother Andre has provided us with some material there. You'll find it. Thank you so much. And Prof. Beatrice, it's saying intentionality in the spaces we occupy is key to driving this desired transformation and impact for Africa. Thanks, my professor. You're spot on there. And then Sivuise, through any digital tool uses data. Google Earth updates every 3 months ever since we started sharing location points and measuring using it. Wow, 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 wow. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Vik, my brother, thank you so much. This was very, not only insightful, but definitely informative, instructive, thought-provoking, and very impactful presentation. Thanks, my brother. As we've requested that, we'll come back to you to invite you to please come and power us next time. But obviously, we are taking you as one of us now. Whenever we are available, please do attend the community, as we always have powerful speakers and powerful topics. So thank you so much for availing yourself, my brother. You've learned a lot today. And to everyone, thank you again, especially for those who joined us for the first time. Please do join us again next week on Wednesday. We'll be having another powerful speaker discussing another leadership topic. We are here to learn, to unlearn, to relearn, and to co-learn together. We've grown a lot since we've started this platform. Thank you so much. The session is adjourned now until we meet again next week Wednesday. Thank you, and may God bless you, and may God bless Africa. Thank you, and goodbye. Bye-bye.